So I know you are ramped up to get to the science of this whole thing, but we thought it would be important to sort of touch on the life history of northern shrimp. So their range, as you can see, is mostly in the northern hemisphere and colder waters. And us in the Gulf of Maine are at the southern extent of the species range. So any sort of changes to the environment will make this population vulnerable. So very interesting thing about northern shrimp is that they're protandric hermaphrodites, which means that they're born as males. They're not sexually mature yet. They're sort of go through a couple juvenile stages, but they don't sexually mature as males until approximately 2.5 years old. Then they go into another transition stage, and they sexually mature as females at about age 3.5. And like Mike mentioned before, they are a very short-lived species, only living to about 5 years of age. So that's why we do an annual stock assessment on this species. So it definitely behooves fishermen to save the smaller juveniles and males. So using techniques like the size sorting grid or the traps, because those are the future egg-bearing females of the population. So you definitely want to make sure you're saving those, and because sometimes catches can get mixy, like later in March and April. So using these new techniques developed by researchers will help to save the egg-bearing females in the future. So the sort of movements in the Gulf of Maine, they prefer cold basins with organic, rich, mud, soft bottoms. They can be found at range depths of 10 to 300 meters, so about 30 to 1,000 feet. Spawning occurs offshore in the summer, and late summer, early fall time, and it's not always the same every single year. And the females extrude their eggs onto their abdomen and sort of oxygenate them with their pleopods, and they move inshore in late fall and winter to hatch their eggs. So hatching occurs anywhere from February to April, and the pelagic larvae, pelagic meaning they're sort of in the upper water column, they're not settled on the bottom yet. So the larvae sort of swim around feeding and developing for about a year and a half inshore. And then the juveniles settle to the bottom. And the juveniles and the larvae feed on phytoplankton and zooplankton. And then the females then return back to the offshore cold deep water. So the adults feed on sort of the same plankton and benthic inverts. And we know that the males and the non-egg-bearing females sort of come up into the water column at night and filter feed, and feed on all the plankton and stuff. And then they return to the bottom in the morning, where then they feed on the bottom invertebrates on the ground. So there's sort of a host of predators, unfortunately, for northern shrimp, which include cod, pollock, windowpane, redfish, sea raven, northern sculpin, white hake, silver hake. So they have a lot of predators out there. Any questions on the life history?